Absolutely. The more, the merrier. If you already are on Twitter, also smash that like button. Let's retweet the space out. Expecting some nuggets from Dr. K today. We've been going super hard on projects, so they've been burning the midnight oil, and the community has a ton of questions. We fielded as much as we could with Jonathan yesterday, but definitely expect to see some of those crop up today. So feel free to drop those questions down there in the chat. Kishore, I know you have a number of them. Here they come already. Absolutely love it. I really appreciate you, Kishore. Yeah, guys, smash that like button over on X. Shoot out a retweet. Let's try to bring some more folks into the space. I see some folks in Discord requesting to speak. I'll just request that you drop your questions in chat to start, and then if we have time later, we'll bring some folks up to speak to get some additional questions, work through. We have some good experience with some of the OGs in this community, but we got some new peeps hanging out. So just to help us, time box everything appropriately, drop your questions down there in chat, and we'll get to them in the timely manner that we have today. Dr. K, super hard at work, but he was kind enough to give us the hour. So you ready to dive in, Dr. K? We already got a bunch of questions coming through here.
Yeah, let's go for it, man.
Let's do it. All right. Let's see here. Kicking us off, Kishore is bringing us some questions from the community. Nintron was asking how Chi sending works. His understanding is that you have to call a contract in Quai to put up your address and the receiver address. He'd love more explanation as to why that is and how this also doesn't add a big tracking data point, since then anyone could see who is trying to transact with who. So just
this is a good question.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
Basically, she uses something called BIP47, which are pay codes. So you can kind of think of it as like, when I want to do a transaction, I don't know sort of like what the change is going to be, or what kind of like, the other person may or may not have to sort of figure out how to like make change, so to speak. So in very much the same way that if you were to spend cash, you kind of go to the cashier, and between you figure out like, oh, they have like some quarters and some dimes, some pennies. Maybe they have like fives, ones, but maybe you go in with a 20 and they're like, oh, I don't have like enough, fives to do that or something. And you're like, oh, do you have a 10? So you kind of like negotiate this. You have the same problem with Chi in that you need to sort of be able to easily negotiate kind of like how many inputs are coming from one person, potentially inputs from the other person, to create like the right number of outputs to the right people. So there's this kind of like interactive process where you don't know kind of like how many of the output addresses you need. So you use this pay code system, which is BIP47, which you basically exchange up with the counterparty, and then they can arbitrarily derive this tree of addresses down to like the number they need. But you don't have to go back and forth and like negotiate the number of addresses. It just pay code, you can sort of arbitrarily create the number that it's needed. So now the issue is that address tree, which is unique to that paying pair, can only be recreated with the other payment code. So if you say were like a merchant, or you like received money, and you left it in those addresses, which you kind of want to do for privacy, you may not be able to recover them, right? So you need this concept of potentially, depending on how you operate, a degree of permanence of that channel, at least known to you. And so one way that we chose to do that initially, not really how we want to do it long term, but initially is you record that channel on Quai, so you know that that exists. Now, that doesn't mean that other people can see inside of that tree, so to speak, but they know that it exists. So it does compromise privacy, but that's really just a convenience factor for the first implementation of Blip. We do anticipate potentially shipping a system where, depending on how you, excuse me, got a bug in my mouth.
Protein.
Right? You know, we do anticipate shipping a system where you don't have to record that on chain. That was really just like the first implementation. That could be ephemeral peer-to-peer data, but then that puts more impetus on sort of how you store stuff in your wallet. And it means that if you don't, like, if you lose the updated copy of your wallet, it's not recoverable with a seed phrase. So that's kind of like the trade-off space. But certainly, you know, in the long term, we will be adding more ephemeral mechanisms.
Interesting. Can you highlight that last point again? So what is the mechanism where you potentially lose recoverability via your seed phrase?
Well, because like once you create these BIP47 trees, I only know how to recreate them if I know who it was with.
Oh, got it.
Right. So if I, you know, do a transaction with you, and then I go back to my seed phrase doesn't know to look at, like, how to create that tree or where to look. Right? Because, like, it just doesn't know. So if you want to maintain that, you need that, like, in a record that you can look up somewhere. So basically, the interaction with Quai when you first do a transaction is you're registering that I'm doing a transaction with your address or your code, so to speak.
Got it.
So that in the future I can look it up and I can derive it.
Got it.
Now there is a loss of privacy there. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
So if you're looking for, like, you know, using that convenience is not a good idea.
Yeah, heard. Great question to kick us off, guys. I also dropped a link to our recently published Qi cache-like privacy document that explains a lot of this more in detail and the reasons why we made the design decisions we did. So check that out if you want to learn more about why Qi is the way it is. I think you'll like it. And we got a good follow-up question on that from Jonathan here. He asks, can you submit a hash of the payment code instead of the payment code itself for better privacy?
No, because you're not going to be able to recreate the channel with the hash of the payment code.
Got it. Okay.
So like the real thing is just you can use it ephemerally, or you can, like, update your wallet, right, periodically, and then you don't have, like, the guaranteed atomicity, like, or the guaranteed sort of, like, integrity on the seed phrase. It becomes a lot more cash-like.
Right.
Right. So, like, if I do transactions, I don't back that wallet up, like, those transactions are going to go away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or, I mean, the other way to do it is, like, you could have a service that isn't the blockchain.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Records those things for you, and then you're dependent on that service to be lively and available and not tell everybody what's in your list. right? So there's a number of ways to go. There's actually like an infinite number of ways. We actually talked about a lot of these, and our thought process was there's a lot you can do here. And so just to sort of get it out the door in the time that we had for, the basic like nature of it, we just did it with the Quai.
Right.
Like, it's definitely not the most privacy optimized way to do it. And longer term, like, you will be working towards making better ways to do it.
Sure. Lots of opportunity for wallet builders in this space.
Yeah, I mean, you can, so like, one thing that's interesting that we want to do with Lib is we actually want a hole punch. So basically, like, when you scan the QR code, it tells you effectively how to hole punch. And then with that one scan, it'll allow you to do like everything actually like truly P2P. And then if you don't want to record that publicly, like you just record it in the wallet. So it becomes very, very cash-like.
Got it. Yeah, the peer-to-peer is super interesting. That's also potentially.
It also enables mixing.
Right. I was thinking coin joins, right?
Yeah. So it would be much better to have effectively like true like mixing of funds. So instead of you always coming in with like a 20 to pay for like what you want, that even if you have a 20, you don't use your 20. You like use some fives, use some ones. They use some like fives and ones. Maybe they give you a 20. You kind of like randomize who the payer and the payee is. But you can get a lot of entropy from just those two parties kind of being creative with how they do the transaction.
Interesting. We got Jonathan up here. What's going on, Jonathan?
Hey, I just wanted to clarify real quick. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know there's a bunch of questions about SOAP, but the way the contract works is you submit your payment code and the recipient's payment code when you send a transaction for the first time as like a notification. If you submit the recipient's payment code as a hash rather than the actual payment code, the recipient knows the hash of their own payment code, obviously, and so do I, but nobody else does. So if anybody's looking at this contract, they would see, oh, I'm sending, a bunch of payments to a bunch of different hashes, but they wouldn't know what payment code I'm actually sending to. They would just know, that it's a hash. And then the recipient would just look up the hash of their own payment code.
I mean, they do. It's a one-to-one mapping, right? So, like, just because I have the image and I don't have the pre-image, your image is always the same unless you add a new piece of entropy. If I add a new piece of entropy, then I need to hold whatever that entropy is to be able to find it again, right? It doesn't actually solve anything.
Well, just for onlookers, right? For third parties who don't know the payment code.
No. I know. So, like, if I hash your name and Jonathan becomes Yonatan,
yeah,
like, it's always going to show up as Yonatan.
Right.
Unless I salt it. So it doesn't really do much to publish the image because it's one-to-one referable to the pre-image unless you had a salt, which thereby circumvents the fact that you're going to have to store data.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways you could do it. You could also like encrypt it. You can make an encrypted message that the recipient can decrypt. That's probably another way to do it. But I still think that hashing it is better privacy than doing it publicly because onlookers don't know the pre-image. Like, some of them maybe do, and I understand it's a one-to-one mapping. They're saying that the majority of onlookers don't.
A Bitcoin address is double hashed, right? So, like, double hashing it still associates it with a pub key, right? You're not, like, fundamentally changing the nature of the linking. It's still linkable, right? It's just like a different name. Right. So the reason that you double hash in Bitcoin, it has to do with the concept that you might have cryptographic vulnerability to ECC or ECDSA and it prevents long range like attacks on it. Is like why they introduced addresses over pub keys. But it's still a one-to-one mapping is the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a thing wherein you just have like a pseudo deterministic nonce, I guess. Maybe it's just incremented, 1 through infinity, and then when you go to like sync, you can just like query, kind of like a gap rule on addresses in Bitcoin. That might help. That could help some, right? Because then like the rule is deterministic, right? Now the problem that you're going to potentially have though, well, I guess once it's recorded, it's never going to zero balance. So, you could do that actually. That would help.
Mm-hmm.
That would help because then
true.
every transaction you don't know as long as the recipient never reveals their pub key, you don't know like any of them. But once it reveals it once, then all of it's like knowable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I could also I could encrypt my payment code against the recipient's pub key, and only the recipient would then ever know what payment codes are associated with their payment code, right? They'd be the only ones who can decrypt it, and then I wouldn't ever be able to tell what payment codes are associated with the recipient.
Yeah, no, that's true. You could do it that way as well. That may help. So anyway, there's ways to do this, guys. Like I said, this wasn't like we know that this is a thing. And then when you really get into it, there's temporal analysis, there's IP analysis, right? Like there's other features we still need to add the chi to like obscure transaction propagation, kind of like dandelion. So there's still work to be done here. It's not in like the base layer, it's in the tooling. And we're aware of it.
Yeah, I think dandelion is really cool too. But yeah, I'll let you guys get back to it. I didn't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to have that quick combo.
Yeah, no,
it's a good one.
It's a great conversation. I just want to highlight, lots of ways of skinning this cat, and plenty of opportunity for wallet builders out there to innovate here. So.
Yeah, I mean it's very much in the tooling layer, which is like the important distinction here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay. Last question on that topic. Since we mentioned Blip, Kishore was curious, have we considered enabling tap to pay in Blip?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, once we get some other things done, that's really what we want to get to, but we don't want to get to like stupid tap to pay.
Right.
We really want to get to tap to pay that's actually on the blockchain. We need an interchange partner for that. And we've talked to them before, and there's some requirements that we have to get done before we can like do that. But that definitely is one of the long-term goals, is to do tap to pay where you tap and it actually does a transaction on the blockchain itself.
Nice. Great questions, guys.
Right, so like every time you see like a card that exists right now, right, like behind that card, behind that like system, there is a custodian that's like a bank that's holding crypto and doing a crypto exchange somewhere. So you're not actually like spending crypto, you're just doing like a spot exchange via custodian. And they're taking fees and they're taking like slip on the exchange rate. So it's not like a good system. So, Gemini cards, even this bet card that we have, it's a convenience item, but it doesn't really get you where you want to go with blockchains.
100%. Rock on. Great questions to kick us off, guys. Really appreciate that. Just a quick check-in on X. We got Crypto Alucard with his hand up. Crypto Alucard, I'm gonna call on you, but just FYI, if you can tune into our event here on Discord, it'll be much easier to engage long term on this. But go ahead and ask your question. Hopefully, Dr. K will be able to hear it.
Yo. Sadly, I don't use Discord. Somehow Discord doesn't like me. But
Oh
you know
no.
me, I can always make it happen. And hello,
Okay.
guys. And I was just at the birthday party that I didn't want to go. So I told my family I have a very important meeting. and this is the meeting. Yeah, so
Oh,
basically
got it.
my community asking me two questions that I would like to ask you so you can
Sure.
answer for them. The first question would be about the merge mining, about the SOAP. And can you mine multiple tokens at the same, let's say LTC, Doge, and Quai, or this is just figured out that it will be like 2 tokens at a time, 3 tokens at a time, or you can switch from time to time?
Okay, good question. Dr. K, did you hear that, or do you need me to repeat?
If you could repeat, that'd be great. I was coming in and out.
Sure. So, Crypto Alucard's community is asking about the merge mining with Project SOAP. Will they be able to merge mine 2 tokens at the same time, and will they be able to switch between the two? So, for example, are they going to be able to merge mine Quai and Litecoin and Doge all at once? And then what if they want to switch to mining, say, Quai and Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah, so I mean, there's 3 different mining algos here, right? Ravencoin uses Kapow, Doge and Litecoin use Script, and then Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin use Shaw. So in the case of Kapow, right, when you merge mine, Ravencoin, right, the Quai goes to the miner, and the Ravencoin goes to the subsidy address, which then is sold to buy Quai. In the case of Bitcoin Cash, you mine Shaw, where you're mining with Shaw. Same thing. The Bitcoin Cash goes to the subsidy address. The Quai goes to the miner. The Bitcoin Cash is used to buy Quai. In terms of Litecoin and Dogecoin, if you're mining Script, you're going to be mining both simultaneously, but both of the coins, again, go to the subsidy address and they're sold to buy Quai. And the Quai goes to the miner, and then Bitcoin is the same as Bitcoin Cash.
Got it. Tracking. And
Right.
then, before switching between those, really you're switching hardware at that point. GPUs for Kapow.
You're not going to be able to economically mine the same hardware across the algos.
Got it. Did you get that, Crypto Alucard?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I have a second question from the same community from my pals for mining. So if you mine, let's say LTC alone or Quai alone, will the SOAP upgrade give you the same value? If you, of course, if you let's say you mine LTC and you get like, I don't know, $10 a day. You mine Quai, you get the same $10 a day. But if you merge mine with the SOAP, will you get, I don't know, the same $10, just $5 in LTC, $5 in Quai? Of course, the LTC will be sold and the Quai will be rebought, or it will be a different value, similar
Good
or different.
question. Good question.
Yeah, so if you mine and say you get $10 on the Quai, then there should also be $10 of the secondary token that goes to the subsidy address, which is used to buy Quai and market that day. There's no way when if you were to mine and you were to do it where you're not and you'd have to change the node software to do this, where you're not actually merge mining the second token, you're going to get a 20% penalty. So there's actually liveness checks in the system, and based off those liveness checks, you're not creating good subsidy shares. We give you 20% less Quai.
Got it.
Yeah,
Rock
thank you
on.
very much. And I would like to congratulate you on getting the privacy tag on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, because I didn't know that layer one can get a privacy tag as well, especially if it's not privacy only focused.
Nice. Yeah, appreciate that, Crypto Alucard. Thanks for the questions. Big ambassador over here at Quai Network. So shout out to you. Great questions. Really love how you're supporting your community here. Rock on, guys. Rock on. Again, like if you haven't heard, we just got that privacy tag on CoinMarketCap, so that's huge. Cool beans. All right, I got another quick question for you, Dr. K, and then we'll dive deeper into SOAP here. Burak is asking, he says, Dr. K, I know you follow the crypto world closely. For example, I first heard about Kaido from your Twitter live stream. Considering other networks and everything, which DApp would you most like to see running on Quai Network, and why?
Money.
We're hyper focused over here, folks. We're trying to solve the big problem first.
Well, the thing is, if you can solve that problem at scale and at cost, you can be used for anything, basically.
Right.
Like, if you can truly be money, then, like, you can truly, like, work for any application that has economically valuable transfers. So yeah, I mean, that's really the focus. I will say that the killer apps that are downstream of that, are the ones that are related to money. So things that use micropayments or things that, trade other assets or securities. So, one thing with SOAP that's going to be nice is, we're going to try to nativize the flow of the subsidies, onto like a Quai native DEX. That might take a minute in like an integration with some partners or the development of a more novel atomic swap system. But the interesting piece is that we can guarantee the volume, right? So it'll create TVL, it'll create volume. It potentially is going to be trustless and decentralized, like from Bitcoin to Quai, depending on how we end up going about it. And Bitcoin Cash and Dogecoin, Litecoin, any of these chains will like be natively sort of interoperable and tradable, like fully. So yeah, I mean that's another like killer app, right? Micropayments is kind of like something like Kipper. There's also ideas how you could tie that into like a Tor system.
Right.
But the big one is money. The secondary one to that is markets, right? Because money like drives markets. Be kind of how I think about it. And then the third one would be, monetizing resources on the internet to reform it around, users paying for service rather than being commoditized and sold off to advertisers.
Yeah. No, that one's big. We love talking about that one. Kipper Money's definitely making some progress on that front. Rock on. Great question, Burak. A lot of opportunities floating out there. But yeah, if we solve for money, which is our main focus right now, those can actually be a reality at scale. So nice. All right. We're gonna dive into some SOAP questions now. To kick us off, AlphaMine is fielding a lot of questions from his community just about timelines. So you mentioned this briefly yesterday. But maybe just like set context here on what timelines we're looking at currently for Project SOAP.
Yeah, I mean, the big answer is I think right now we're planning for the Tuesday after Thanksgiving for the actual go live on mainnet. That's really going to be contingent on us probably shipping the testnet by at least Monday of next week. but we think we're on track for that.
Heck yeah. All right. So tentative testnet Monday next week and mainnet.
I mean, we might get testnet done this week, but I'm saying like we need to have it running like Monday, Tuesday next week if we want to hit the December, I think, 2nd or 3rd timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Tuesday is December 2nd. So
Yeah.
rock on. So okay, cool. So that's the current timeline, guys. You're still early, so
Yeah, we
dive
have
in.
we already have 3 different tools integrated.
Oh, nice.
So that's going on in the background, obviously.
Heck yeah.
And there's more that are working. So
Huge. Rock on. Appreciate that, Dr. K. All right, now for some more technical questions about Project SOAP. I'm going to ask this one, and then I'll get a tweet pinned up for those of you tuning in on X. So if you're unfamiliar, you can read more about what we're talking about and why we're so excited. First one here from Keyshore. Since merged miners can earn from multiple sources simultaneously, should emission calculations be weighted by effective revenue per hash instead of raw hash rate?
so everything is normalized. So each hash algorithm has its own controller, and there's an assumption about efficient targets. But once that assumption is made, that the each algo sits in an efficient market, you can then normalize the payment per share across the different algos.
Okay. Okay, so ultimately we have to normalize the hash rate to understand.
There's 2 statements. One is each has its own difficulty controller,
Okay.
which means in a efficient market, it's converging to that like marginally profitable point, right? And if there's not a competitive algorithm, it is maybe 5 to 10% cost. If there is, it's 5 to 10% above what that competitive algorithm is. Just fine. But once that point is made, then each share can be paid equivalent to every other share.
Okay. Okay.
Because they're worth the same amount.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty sure I'm tracking that. Keyshore, feel free to follow up on that one if you have more questions. Moving right along here, are KQuai rate changes designed to propagate linearly to conversion rates, or does the protocol smooth these changes to prevent short-term distortions?
So when there's adjustments to KQuai, it holds them. Otherwise, it's market responsive, but it's highly filtered.
Okay. And how for the audience, how do we define KQuai?
It's effectively the conversion rate between Quai and Chi.
Got
Do you
it.
have to think about it?
Got it. Okay. Appreciate that, Dr. K. Good question. I think my best guess yesterday was that it's smooth, but that makes more sense. Cool. All right. Let's see here. Moving right along. If additional proof of work networks are added later, will SOAP redistribute emissions proportionally or expand total emission volume?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of like SOAP is to maximize revenue.
Right.
So, whatever like maximizes revenue.
Okay. Easy answer. Rock on. I'll ask this one and then check for follow-ups here.
Now that being said, guys, like there's a limited like set of things that you can soak
Right.
that currently exist. The only other ones that like marginally exist are Zec and Monero.
Right.
Those are like the two. The BTC, the blocks are too fast for us. So Monero is tricky though because it uses P to pool. So, I don't know if you'd be sourcing like hash rate out of that community directly. It would be like sourcing it from outside that community. So I don't know if that's like worthwhile for us. So honestly, like I think there's only one other token you would add, which would be Zcash.
Got it. If you were to kind of describe ideal candidates for SOAP, how would you do that?
Proof of work, simple verification algorithm. At least a 1 minute block time, and like a decent market cap and hash rate, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think that helps. Rock on. All right.
There's not that many tokens that like fall into that set. Right now, the interesting one with Zcash is the consensus is also a Bitcoin fork. So like Zcash would be pretty easy to do.
Right.
We just needed to like kind of balance the amount of work that we're shipping at once. But we have talked about it.
Okay. Skipping ahead here because this is relevant. AlphaMind's asking, why not Conflux, Nervos, or Xana?
Well, I mean, there's a couple. One is just the amount of like proof of work revenue is not super high.
Mm.
And it would like overlap with GPUs, and then the block time issue, right? So like Complex has faster block times. I think Xano is doable because the actual blocks in Xano I think are pretty long. But again, the amount like available is not worth the effort.
Got it. Okay. Appreciate that. Great questions, guys. Let's see here.
Guys, like think about it this way, right? Like right now, there's like $55 million in debt. It's like out there, and what we're trying to do is figure out how to get as much of that as possible. So, given a limited amount of time and resources, like how do you do that? Right? You don't do it by like going after the guy that's doing 20K a day.
Right.
Right? Like you gotta spend your time like in, the most profitable areas, so to speak.
Heard. Okay. Let's see here. Kishore is trying to direct me here to the next one. I believe, let's see here. Just stay in line here. Okay, he's wondering about question 6. Okay, so question 6 is, how are different chains' hash rates normalized for equivalence?
By the market. They each have their own difficulty controller. So, assuming efficient markets, the difficulty will adjust to the reward.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers that question, Kishore. Feel free to follow up there. Let's see here. I think we answered that one. We'll go with this one. Okay, so if two contributing chains report new blocks at different intervals or experience temporary reorgs, how does SOAP ensure consistent emission crediting?
So SOAP does a liveness check on the subsidy block, and if you're in the liveness window, you get credit. If you're not, you don't. So there's no like hard tie to the other chains. So like if for some reason the subsidy like doesn't get paid out, you still get credited in Quai, right? Like if you think about Quai, it's kind of like a share, so to speak. So like regardless of the block being won or not, like you're still going to get paid for your share.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's, we had this question on Monday. I think we arrived at the same conclusion there. So good to see that. All right, I'm going to ask this next one and then we'll call on after that. He's got his hand raised again. So, next one here is, what is the smallest unit of time or block interval over which SOAP recalculates emission adjustments?
So the difficulty controllers operate on like a 1-day basis.
Okay.
So it's much faster than the systems to which they're attached.
Got it. And I think we mentioned that yesterday with Jonathan. I think Bitcoin adjusts, oh shoot, I forget. It's like multiple days, right?
I think it's 2,000 blocks. So that's like weeks.
Yeah,
Something like that.
that sounds familiar. Okay. Rock on. Great questions, Kishore. Okay, we're gonna pass the mic back to Crypto Alucard. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that you mentioned Zano as a blockchain. I worked with Zano like a year ago, so if you need connection, I still have it.
Oh, okay. Shout out. Appreciate that. Yeah, that I don't know if you caught that, Dr. K, but Crypto Alucard's willing to help us out once we consider Xano. Xano's I'll just also say I believe Xano's a hybrid model as well, so that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think they added like it's like staked work or something, if I recall correctly. So I don't think that'd be like largely compatible, but this really just works with proof of work based systems.
Right.
So
Cool beans. Cool beans. All right.
appreciated either way. So
Yeah. No, definitely much appreciated. Shout out to our ambassadors. Those guys are doing amazing work. Rock on. Okay, moving right along here. All right, so this one I didn't really understand, but I'll ask it. What is a healthy entropy balance range before minor incentives start to shift?
it's not about the entropy balance; it's about profitability, right?
Okay.
So basically, an algo it becomes unprofitable when you exceed like the network that you're mining.
Right.
So the first one that will happen to is Ravencoin. And so as we move past 80% of Ravencoin's hash rate, we'll start sizing more at the Sean script. Because it will cost, like once you exceed it, you start to pay the bill for mining again with inflation. So you want to reallocate the share so you can grow the system as far as you can grow it before you run out of like subsidy, so to speak.
Okay.
At some point you would outstrip Bitcoin, and you're gonna have to pay for your hash rate, and like whatever hash rate's in excess of Bitcoin, you got to pay for it.
Right. Okay.
Until like you get there, you want to rebalance the shares in such a way that you're always maximizing the subsidy revenue back relative to the qualified payments out.
Right. Right. That is the goal. It's important not to forget that as we dive into these technicals here. Kishore has a
fault. And then the one cool thing too is there's like a litany of revenue models that we have in the pipe. But that revenue then also like plays into the emissions. So, for example, if we got to 20% of Bitcoin and we were doing say 10 million a day in buybacks, you might actually be doing, $1 million a day in transaction fees.
Right.
In excess of those buybacks, right? And that effectively is like a buyback. And so let's say you have like a successful swap or a DEX, and it's also doing $1 million a day in fees. That's another $1 million in revenue.
Right.
Right. So there's like a handful of things. So like one reason that we want to redirect subsidy flows to a DEX on Quai is because it starts generating fees, liquidity, and volume. And then any fees that you can take from that DEX count as revenue against the chain.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing I think we often forget are transaction fees.
Yeah, I mean, transaction fees, basic transaction fees, more complex transaction fees. Anything you can revenue to the chain, like, is a positive adder in this system. Right? So as you start to grow and get adoption, you're not just sort of relying on that subsidy. Whatever you're doing in transaction fees is a delta against it. It's a positive adder. So once you get SOAP live, then your only goal is to figure out how to get as many transactions on chain as possible.
Oh man.
But every transaction also leads to positive price appreciation because every transaction is effectively a purchase of Quai. So if SOAP is a net neutral activity, then every time you do a transaction, you're actually buying Quai. And those are all like cumulative, adders over time. They're not being like offset by inflation because your inflation from the mining is zero.
Heard. Okay, so just FYI, folks, the space might have crashed on us. And I'm trying to figure out why. But we're about an hour in now, so probably we'll delay bringing that one back up for the rest of this. Apologies for that. Yeah, not really sure what happened. I just got logged out across the board. Okay, to build on that question, then Kishore is asking. So let me go back up and get some context here. I lost my train of thought. So when emissions ratios are shifting because revenue situation has changed, Kishore is asking here. So where did it go? So it just shifts the cost to other chains' hash markets is the question. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that one more time?
So Kishore is asking, so it just shifts the cost to other chains.